The transport ship landed on 4 with a low hum. Park stood near the exit door and looked through the small window. The planet was beautiful. Purple mountains rose in the distance. 3 moons hung in the green sky, but was not here for the view. She was here to become a soldier. The door opened, stepped out onto the platform. The air smelled like metal and flowers mixed together. Around her, other recruits were walking toward the massive building ahead. The Galactic Coalition Military Academy. It was the most famous military school in the known galaxy. Soldiers from over 40 different species trained here. And now, for only the 3rd time in history, a human had been accepted. Was that human? She was 24 years old. She had black hair tied back in a simple knot. Her body was small compared to most of the aliens around her. Some of them were 3 meters tall. Some had 4 arms. Some had skin that looked like moving crystals, but walked with her back straight and her eyes forward. She was not afraid. On her back she carried a long cloth bag. Inside it was her most important possession, a sword. It was made of steel. It had been in her family for 7 generations. Her grandmother had given it to her before she died. Her grandmother had said one thing: never let them make you forget who you are. Had promised she would keep that promise. Inside the academy, the recruits gathered in a large hall. The ceiling was so high that could not see where it ended. Lights floated in the air without any wires. Everything here was advanced technology. Everything was designed to show power. A creature walked onto the stage at the front. He was tall, almost 3 meters. His skin was dark green and covered with small scales. His eyes were yellow with black lines in the middle like a snake. He wore a military uniform with many medals on the chest. This was Instructor. He was a reptilian species known for their strength and their pride. Looked at the recruits. His yellow eyes moved slowly across the room. When they passed over, they stopped for a moment. Then they moved on. "Welcome to the academy," said. His voice was deep and rough. "You are here because your planets believe you are the best, but I will tell you the truth. Most of you are not ready. Many of you will fail. Only the strong will graduate." He raised one hand. A device on his wrist glowed blue. Suddenly, a blade of pure plasma appeared in his grip. It was bright white and hummed with energy. The heat from it made the air bend and wave. "This is power," said. "Plasma technology. It cuts through metal like water through sand. No armor can stop it. No shield can block it. This is the weapon of the future. This is what you will learn to use." The recruits watched with wide eyes. Watched too, but her face showed nothing. Turned off the plasma blade. Then his eyes moved back to, he smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You there," he said. "Human, come forward." Did not hesitate. She walked through the crowd and stood at the bottom of the stage. She looked up without blinking. "I notice you carry something on your back," said. "Show everyone what it is." Reached back and pulled out the cloth bag. She opened it slowly. Then she drew the sword. The steel blade caught the floating lights. It was beautiful in a simple way. Clean lines, sharp edge. A weapon made by human hands hundreds of years ago. The room was silent for 3 seconds. Then someone laughed. It was a creature with 4 arms and a hard shell like an insect. Others joined in. They who looked like tall frogs with smooth skin made wet clicking sounds of amusement. Even the crystalline, who rarely showed emotion, seemed to glow brighter with what might have been mockery. Laughed the loudest. "Steel," he said. "You brought steel to my academy." He shook his head like a teacher disappointed in a child. "Do you know what plasma does to steel? It melts it in less than 1 second. Your blade would become liquid before you could lift it. Steel cannot stop plasma, little human." The laughter grew louder, stood still. Her face remained calm. "Tell me," continued, "why do you carry this useless thing? Is it for decoration? Or do humans simply not understand technology?" Looked at the sword in her hands, then she looked at. "This sword belonged to my family for 7 generations," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. My ancestors carried it through many wars. They survived. Leaned down toward her. His yellow eyes were close to her face. His breath smelled like smoke. Your ancestors fought with swords because they had nothing better, he said. Now you stand in a hall of plasma and energy shields. Your sword is a relic, a memory. It belongs in a museum, not on a battlefield. Did not argue. She simply bowed her head in respect. Then she sheathed the sword and returned to her place in the crowd. Watched her go. His smile faded slightly. He had expected anger. He had expected tears. But the human had given him neither. In the crowd, another human watched carefully. His name was. He was 26 years old, with short black hair and a serious face. He had arrived at the academy 2 cycles ago. He knew what was feeling because he had felt it too. When he first arrived, they had laughed at him as well. They called humans weak. They called humans slow. They said humans were only accepted to show the galaxy how kind the coalition was to lesser species. But had learned something important. The ones who laughed the loudest often feared the most. They were afraid that maybe, just maybe, the humans might surprise them. After the orientation, found in the corridor, she was looking out a window at the purple mountains. "You handled that well," he said in Korean. It felt good to speak his native language again. Turned to look at him. "You are," she said. "I read about you, the first human to pass the basic training." Nodded. "And you are Park, the one who refused to leave her sword behind. They almost did not let you board the transport." Smiled for the first time since arriving. Almost. "The instructor will not leave you alone," said. "He will use you as an example. He will try to break you." "I know," said. "And the sword, you know he is right. Plasma will destroy it." Looked back out the window. The 3 moons were rising now. They filled the sky with silver light. "My grandmother told me something before she died," said. "She said the sword is not about cutting the enemy. It is about what you carry inside yourself. The sword is a reminder. As long as I hold it, I remember who I am. I remember that my people survived worse than laughter." Was quiet for a moment, then he nodded slowly. "I will help you," he said. "Whatever you are planning, I will help." Looked at him with curious eyes. "How do you know I am planning something?" Smiled. "Because I saw your face when laughed at you. You were not embarrassed. You were not angry. You were thinking. And that is more dangerous than any plasma blade." Smiled back. In this academy of aliens, of technology, of things that glowed and hummed with power she did not understand, she had found something valuable. She had found an ally. And together, they would teach this galaxy what humans could do. 3 weeks passed at the academy. Every day was filled with lessons and tests. Every night was filled with exhaustion. The recruits learned about weapons, tactics, and survival. They trained their bodies and their minds. And through it all, instructor watched like a hunter watching prey. In the combat simulations, performed well enough to pass but never well enough to stand out. She scored in the middle of the class. She never took first place. She never took last. Some of the other recruits thought she was simply average, but knew the truth, was hiding her real abilities. "You could win those simulations," told her one evening. They were sitting in the small room they shared. It was basic but clean. 2 beds, 2 desks, 1 window showing the purple mountains. Shook her head. "If I win, will watch me more closely. He will study my techniques. Right now he thinks I am weak. That is exactly what I want." Understood. In war, surprise was the greatest weapon, and was building a very big surprise. During the day, watched everything. She studied how each species fought. They were strong and fast. They used their 4 arms to attack from many angles at once, but noticed something. When they attacked with their upper arms, their lower arms moved slower. There was a small gap, a moment of weakness. They were different. They were flexible like water. They could bend their bodies in strange ways to avoid attacks, but they were not good at sudden movements. If you could force them to react quickly, they would lose balance for just 1 second. They were the most interesting. Their bodies were made of living crystal. They could create shields of light that blocked most weapons, but their shields took energy to maintain. If you made them use the shield too many times, they would grow tired. The light would grow dim. Wrote everything in a small notebook. She drew pictures, she made lists, she memorized every detail. "You are studying them like they are test questions," said one night, looking at the notebook. "They are test questions," replied, "and I intend to pass." At night, when the academy was quiet and trained together, they went to an old storage room deep in the lower levels. No one used it anymore. It was perfect. Had learned swordsmanship from his grandfather just as had learned from her grandmother. Together, they practiced the ancient forms. They moved through the motions slowly at first, then faster and faster. The steel blades sang in the air. But this was not ordinary training. They were adapting the old techniques for new situations. In space battles, there was no gravity. In alien environments, the air might be thick or thin. They practiced fighting while spinning. They practiced fighting upside down. They practiced until their muscles burned and their hands shook. "The old masters never fought like this," said, breathing hard after a session. "The old masters never fought in space," replied. "We must take what they taught us and make it new. That is how humans survive. We adapt." One night they were not alone. Sensed something watching them. She stopped mid-swing and turned toward the door. A figure stood in the shadows. Her crystalline body glowed faintly in the darkness. She was small for her species, about the same height as. "How long have you been watching?" asked. The stepped forward. Her light shifted from pale blue to soft yellow. "3 nights," she said. Her voice was like wind through glass. "I come here to be alone, but then I saw you training. I did not want to interrupt." Raised his sword slightly. "Are you going to tell the instructors?" The shook her head. Her crystalline hair moved like water. "No, I will not tell," she paused. "My name is Lyra." Lowered her weapon. "Why were you coming here to be alone?" Lyra was quiet for a moment, her glow dimmed. "The other do not like me. I am too small. My light is too weak. They say I bring shame to our species." She looked at. "I know what it feels like when your own kind is not there for you, when you must walk alone." Understood. On this alien world she had found someone who felt the same isolation she felt. Species did not matter. Loneliness was universal. "You do not have to walk alone," said. "Train with us." Lyra's light grew brighter. "I do not know how to use a sword." "Then we will teach you something else," said. "And you will teach us about your shields, about your weaknesses." Lyra tilted her head. "You want to know weaknesses?" "I want to know everything," said. "Because one day I will fight in the crucible, and I will face every species. I must be ready." Lyra studied for a long moment, then she nodded slowly. "You are strange, human, but I think I like strange." From that night on, Lyra joined their training. She taught them about biology. Their crystals were strong but needed energy from light. In darkness, they grew weak. Their shields could block plasma, but only for short bursts. The longer they held a shield, the more tired they became. And if you attacked them from behind, their shields were slower to form. In return, and taught Lyra about human determination. They taught her that being small did not mean being weak. They taught her that the ones who were mocked could become the ones who surprised everyone. During the day, instructor continued his harassment. He called on in every class. He asked her difficult questions. When she answered correctly, he found ways to make it seem like luck. When she answered incorrectly, he shook his head with disappointment. "Humans," he would say to the class. "They try hard, I will give them that, but trying is not winning." One day made fight a training drone. The drone was set to a high difficulty. It moved fast and attacked without mercy. Most recruits fought drones on medium difficulty, wanted to embarrass her. Fought the drone for 3 minutes. She blocked its attacks. She dodged its strikes, But she did not try to win. She let the drone push her back. She let herself look tired. Finally, she fell to the ground. The drone stood over her, victorious. Smiled, you see, effort without skill is meaningless. But saw what really happened, had studied the drone. She learned its attack patterns. She understood how it moved. She could have one. But she chose to lose. She was still hiding, still waiting. That night in the training room, practiced against. She moved like lightning. She struck with precision. She was nothing like the tired recruit who had lost to the drone. The Crucible is coming soon, said. We'll volunteer you for a match. He wants to see you fail in front of everyone. I know, said. I am counting on it. Lyra watched from the corner. You want him to choose you? Yes, said. Because when he chooses me, he will think he is punishing me. He will think he is teaching me a lesson. She smiled. It was a dangerous smile. But he will be wrong. She raised her sword. The steel caught the dim light. He thinks steel cannot stop plasma. Maybe he is right, but stopping is not the only thing steel can do. She turned to her friends, her allies, her family in this strange place far from Earth. The Crucible is where I will show them, she said. Show them all, what humans are really made of. Outside the window, the 3 moons were full. Their light fell on like a blessing. The time for hiding was almost over. The time for truth was coming. The announcement came on a cold morning. All recruits gathered in the great hall. The floating lights glowed brighter than usual. Something important was happening. Instructor stood on the stage. His yellow eyes swept across the crowd. Behind him, a giant screen showed an arena. It was massive, built of black stone and metal. It looked ancient and modern at the same time. The Crucible said, his voice echoed through the hall. Every year this academy holds a tournament. Cadets fight each other in the arena. Winners earn honor. Losers learn their place. The crowd stirred with excitement. They clicked their mandibles. They made wet sounds of anticipation. Even the seemed to glow brighter. The Crucible is not about killing, continued. It is about proving yourself. Fights end when one cadet cannot continue, or when one cadet surrenders. Medical teams stand ready, but make no mistake. He paused. His eyes grew cold. Pain is part of learning. Stood near the back of the hall, was beside her. Lyra glowed softly on her other side. They had been waiting for this moment. Smiled. It was the same cold smile he always wore when he looked at. I have already chosen some fighters for the first matches, he said. Cadets who I believe need special attention. His eyes found in the crowd. He pointed directly at her. Human Park, you will fight in the opening match. A murmur went through the crowd. Some cadets laughed. Others looked at with something like pity. Opening matches were usually between strong fighters. They set the tone for the whole tournament. Choosing a human for the opening was an insult. Your opponent, continued, will be of the... Now the crowd really reacted. Was one of the largest in the academy. He had 4 massive arms, each ending in sharp claws. He had won every training match he had ever fought. Some said he was the strongest cadet in 10 years. Stood in the front of the crowd. He was almost 3 meters tall. His shell was dark red, almost black. He looked at with compound eyes that showed no emotion. Do you accept this match? Asked. His voice was mocking. Or do you wish to surrender now and save yourself the embarrassment? The hall was silent. Everyone waited. Stepped forward. She walked through the crowd until she stood before the stage. She looked up at. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. I accept, she said. Smile flickered just for a moment. He had expected her to hesitate, to show fear, but she showed nothing. The match is in 3 days, said. Prepare yourself, human, you will need it. The crowd began to leave. Cadets talked among themselves. Most agreed on one thing. The human was finished. Walked back to and Lyra. They left the hall together and went to their training room. Is dangerous, said. His face was serious. I have seen him fight. His plasma blades are stronger than standard issue. He moves faster than any I have seen." "I know," said. "He has never lost," Lyra added. Her light was dim with worry. "Not once, not even close." "I know," said again. Grabbed her arm. "This is not a game. Chose because he wants to destroy you. Not just defeat you, destroy you, make an example of you. He wants every human who dreams of coming here to watch your defeat and give up." Looked at her friends. She saw their worry. She felt their care. These two, one human and one alien, had become her family on this planet far from Earth. "I am not going to lose," she said simply. Lyra shook her head. "You cannot know that, has plasma blades. Your sword is steel. The instructor was right about one thing, steel cannot stop plasma." Was quiet for a moment. Then she sat down on the floor. She pulled out her sword and laid it across her knees. The steel was old. It had small scratches from generations of use, but the edge was still sharp. The balance was still perfect. "You are right," said. "Steel cannot stop plasma, but I never planned to stop it." And Lyra looked at each other. "What do you mean?" asked. Looked up at them. "There is a difference between stopping and redirecting. I do not need to block plasma. I need to move it, change its direction, use his own power against him." Lyra stepped closer. "That is not possible. Plasma is energy. It burns everything it touches." "Everything ordinary," said. "But what about your crystals, Lyra? You told me that crystals can interact with energy. They can bend light. They can hold heat." Lyra's glow changed color. She was thinking. "Yes, but my crystals are weak. I told you. I'm not strong like other." "I do not need strong crystals," said. "I need special crystals. Crystals that can touch plasma for just one moment. Not stop it, just redirect it." "Understood." His eyes went wide. "You want to coat your sword with crystal?" "Yes," said. "When I was a child, my grandmother taught me about steel. She told me that our ancestors mixed different metals together to make stronger blades. They called it the art of combining. I studied it myself. I think I can bond crystal to my sword." "You think?" Lyra asked. "You are not sure." "I am sure of one thing," said. "I am sure that expects to win easily. He expects me to run and hide. He expects me to be afraid. That expectation is his weakness." Lyra was quiet for a long time. Her light shifted through many colors: blue, green, yellow, purple. Finally, it settled on a warm white. "I will give you my crystals," she said, "but you must promise me something." "Anything," said. "Do not die," Lyra said. "You are the first person in this academy who treated me like I mattered. If you die, I will be alone again. I do not want to be alone." Stood up, she walked to Lyra and put a hand on her crystalline shoulder. Lyra felt warm, like sunlight through glass. "I promise," said. That night they worked together. Lyra produced small crystals from her body. It was not painful for her, but it was tiring. Each crystal was the size of a grain of rice. They glowed with soft inner light. Ground the crystals into fine powder. Then she heated her sword over a flame. Using techniques passed down through her family, she bonded the crystal powder to the steel, layer after layer, hour after hour. By morning, the sword looked different. The steel still showed through, but now it had a faint shimmer. When light hit it, tiny rainbows danced across the surface. Tested it. He borrowed a low-power plasma torch and touched it to the blade. The steel did not melt. The plasma slid along the surface like water on oil. "It works," whispered. "It actually works." Held her sword up to the light, her grandmother's weapon, 7 generations of history, and now something new, something no human had ever made before. "It will not last long," she said. "Maybe 1 second, maybe 2. Plasma is stronger than this torch." "1 second is enough," said, "if you know what you are doing." Smiled. She had been studying for weeks. She knew his patterns, his rhythms, his weaknesses. "I know what I am doing," she said. Outside, the sun was rising over the purple mountains. In 2 days she would fight. In 2 days everyone would watch. In 2 days instructor expected to see her fall. She had a different plan. She was going to show them all what steel could really do. The arena was full. Every seat was taken. Cadets from all species sat together, waiting for the fight. Teachers and officers watched from special boxes above. The air smelled like electricity and excitement. Stood at one end of the arena. The sand beneath her feet was black. Ancient combat had stained it with the blood of 100 species. Now she would add her chapter to its history. She wore simple training clothes. No armor, no shield. In her hand she held her sword. The crystal-coated blade caught the arena lights and threw small rainbows across the sand. At the other end waited. He was massive. His 4 arms hung at his sides like weapons waiting to be used. His compound eyes reflected the crowd like 1,000 tiny mirrors. He did not wear armor either. He did not think he needed it. In the observation box, instructor sat forward in his seat. His yellow eyes were fixed on. He expected this to be quick. He expected this to be easy. He expected to watch a human fall. The announcer spoke. His voice echoed through the arena. First match of the Crucible, of the Against Park of Earth. Fight until one cannot continue or surrenders. Begin. A horn sounded. The match started. Moved first. He ran toward with surprising speed. His 4 arms activated at once. Plasma blades hummed to life, one in each hand. They were bright white, almost painful to look at. The heat from them made waves in the air. Did not move, she stood still, waiting. The crowd gasped. Some thought she was frozen with fear. But sitting in the stands knew better. She was watching, measuring. Swung his first blade. It came from the upper right, cutting towards head. She moved, not back, sideways. The plasma passed so close she could feel its heat on her cheek, but it did not touch her. Swung again, upper left, then lower right, then lower left. All 4 blades attacked in a pattern, a wall of burning light. Any other fighter would have been cut to pieces. But danced. She moved between the blades like water flowing through rocks. Each attack missed by centimeters. She did not strike back. She only dodged. The crowd began to whisper. This was not what they expected. Leaned forward more. His smile faded slightly. 1 minute passed, attacked without rest, dodged without rest. Neither of them landed a hit, but something was changing, was getting frustrated. His attacks were becoming wilder, less controlled. Noticed, this was what she wanted. In the stands, Lyra glowed brightly. She understood now. Was not running, she was not afraid. She was learning. Every dodge taught her something about, every near miss showed her his patterns. 2 minutes passed, roared. The sound echoed through the arena. He stopped attacking for just a moment and looked at with something new in his compound eyes. Confusion, maybe even a little fear. "Fight me," he shouted. "Stop running and fight." Did not answer. She raised her sword for the first time. The crystal-coated steel gleamed. Charged again. This time, he put all his strength into one massive strike. All 4 arms moved together, bringing 4 plasma blades down toward like a cage of fire. Did not dodge. She stepped forward, into the attack. The crowd screamed. Some covered their eyes. They thought they were about to watch a human die. But was faster than death. She angled her blade upward. The first plasma sword hit the steel. Crystal met energy. For 1 heartbeat, the plasma slid along the surface of his blade instead of cutting through. The energy was redirected. The plasma moved where wanted it to go. Straight into his own leg. The screamed, he stumbled. His plasma burned through his own shell, leaving a black mark on his thigh. He fell to one knee. For 1 second, the arena was silent. Then moved. She had been studying anatomy for weeks. She knew their weak points. Behind the skull, where the shell was thin, there was a cluster of nerves. A hard strike there would paralyze but not kill. She spun. Her sword came around in a perfect arc. The steel hit exactly where she aimed. The crystal coating made contact with his nerve cluster. Froze, his eyes went wide. Then he fell forward onto the sand. He was still breathing. His eyes still moved, but his body could not respond. He was paralyzed. The arena was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Then a single clap broke the silence. It was Lyra. She stood in the crowd, glowing brightly, clapping her crystalline hands together. The sound was like bells ringing. Joined her, then another cadet, then another. Soon half the arena was applauding, not all of them. Many still sat in shock, but enough to fill the air with sound. Stood over, she was breathing hard. Sweat ran down her face. The crystal coating on her sword was gone, burned away by the plasma contact. The steel was darkened, but it was still whole. It had done its job. She looked up at the observation box, at instructor. Did not clap. He sat perfectly still. His yellow eyes were fixed on, his face showed nothing. But something had changed in how he looked at her. The mockery was gone. Something else had taken its place. The announcer spoke again. His voice was uncertain. Winner, Park of Earth. Medical teams rushed onto the sand. They surrounded and began treating him. He would recover. The paralysis was temporary, but his pride would take much longer to heal. Walked toward the exit. The crowd parted for her. Some cadets looked at her with new respect. Others looked with something like fear. This small human had done what no one thought possible. She had beaten the unbeatable. At the exit and Lyra were waiting. They did not speak. Words were not necessary, simply nodded. Lyra glowed with warm light. They were proud of her. Behind them in the observation box stood up slowly. The other officers were talking excitedly. This was the most surprising match in years, but was silent. He walked out of the box alone. In the corridor, away from everyone, he stopped. He looked at his hands. He thought about what he had just seen. Steel could not stop plasma. He had been right about that. The human's blade was and burned. The crystal coating was destroyed. But the human had never tried to stop the plasma. She had redirected it, used it, turned its own power against him. Had taught thousands of cadets. He had seen talent. He had seen strength. But he had never seen anything like this. This was something different, something that came not from technology or genetic advantage. It came from patience, from observation, from the ability to wait, to learn, to adapt. It came from being human. In the arena, the crowds were leaving. They would talk about this match for months, years. The day a human with a steel sword defeated a with plasma blades. But was not thinking about fame. She was sitting in the medical bay, looking at her sword. The steel was damaged but not broken, just like her grandmother, just like all the humans who had carried this blade before her. They had survived wars, invasions, hardships she could not imagine. And now she had added her own chapter to its story. She held the sword close. The metal was still warm from the plasma. "Thank you," she whispered, to the sword, to her grandmother, to every ancestor who had kept this blade alive. She had won, but this was only the beginning. The galaxy was watching now. And she was just getting started. The news spread faster than light. Within days, every corner of the coalition knew about the human who defeated. Videos of the fight played on screens across 100 worlds. Commentators analyzed every second. Scientists studied the crystal-coated blade. Politicians debated what it meant for human-alien relations. But at the academy, life continued. Walked through the corridors like she had before. She attended classes. She completed training exercises. She ate in the cafeteria. From the outside, nothing seemed different. But everything was different. Cadets who had laughed at her now stepped aside when she walked past. Some nodded with respect. Others pretended not to see her, embarrassed by how they had treated her before. A few approached her with genuine curiosity, asking questions about human culture and history. Recovered fully. The paralysis lasted only 1 day. His body healed within a week, but something in him had changed. One evening, he found alone in the training room. She reached for her sword when she saw him, but he raised his 4 hands in a gesture of peace. "I am not here to fight," he said. His voice was deeper than she remembered, quieter. "Then why are you here?" asked. Was silent for a moment. His compound eyes reflected her image 1,000 times. "To understand," he said finally. "I have fought my whole life. I have never lost, not once. And then you defeated me with a piece of old metal and some crystal dust." He paused. "How?" Considered the question. She could have said many things. She could have explained her training, her studying, her technique, but she knew that was not what he was really asking. "You lost because you expected to win," she said. "You walked into that arena knowing you were stronger, faster, better armed. You never considered that you might lose, and that made you blind." "Listened. I walked into that arena knowing you were stronger," continued. "I knew your plasma was more powerful than my steel, so I did not try to be stronger. I tried to be smarter." Was quiet for a long time. Then he did something never expected. He bowed, not a small nod, a deep bow of genuine respect. "I misjudged your species," he said. "I will not make that mistake again." He left without another word, but knew something important had happened. One enemy had become something else. Not quite a friend, but not an enemy anymore. The days passed, became famous too. People wanted to know about the human who had trained with. He handled the attention with quiet grace, always directing praise back to. Lyra changed the most. The other, who had ignored her before, now looked at her differently. She had helped create the crystal coating. She had been part of the impossible victory. Her light grew brighter every day. She stood taller, spoke louder. The weak was becoming strong. 1 month after the Crucible received a message. It was from Instructor. He wanted to meet her. Alone, in his office. And Lyra did not like it. "It could be a trap," said. "He still hates humans," Lyra added. "I have seen how he looks at you. He is not happy about what happened." But shook her head. "I must go. Whatever he wants, I need to hear it." That evening she walked to his office. It was in a tall tower overlooking the academy grounds. The door was heavy metal. She knocked. "Enter," came the deep voice. Stepped inside. The office was simple. A desk, some shelves with books and artifacts, a window showing the purple mountains. Sat behind the desk. His yellow eyes watched her come in. "Sit," he said. Sat in the chair across from him. She kept her back straight. Her eyes met his directly. For a moment neither spoke. Then reached into a drawer. He pulled out a small object and placed it on the desk between them. It was a piece of metal, twisted and burnt. It took a moment to recognize it. A plasma blade handle. Plasma blade handle. "Do you know what happened after your fight?" asked. "Recovered," said. "Yes, but something else happened too." Pushed the handle toward her. 6 cadets came to me the next day. They asked about primitive weapons training. They wanted to learn swords, axes, spears, things we stopped teaching 100 years ago. Said nothing. "At first I was angry," continued. "I thought they were mocking me, making a joke about the human who won with a steel blade, but they were serious. They had watched you fight. They had seen something they did not understand, and they wanted to learn." He leaned back in his chair. His scales caught the fatting sunlight. "I have taught at this academy for 40 years, he said. "I have trained the best soldiers in the coalition. I have always believed that technology wins wars. Better weapons, better shields, better ships. That is what I taught." He looked at with those ancient yellow eyes. "You made me question that belief." Finally spoke. "I did not beat because my weapon was better. I beat him because I understood something he did not." "What?" "That the weapon is not what matters. The one holding it is what matters." Was silent. Then slowly he stood up. He walked around the desk until he was standing in front of. He was so tall, so powerful, but in this moment he did not seem threatening. He bowed. It was a deep bow, the kind his species used for great respect, the kind they used for equals. "I taught you that steel cannot stop plasma," he said, still bowing. "But I never asked what steel could teach you. I never asked what your species carries inside. I was wrong." He straightened up. "I would like you to help me create a new training program," he said, "combining old techniques with new technology, teaching cadets that strength comes in many forms. Will you do this?" Looked at him for a long moment, this creature who had mocked her, humiliated her, made her an example of human weakness. Now he was asking for her help. Her grandmother had once told her something. The greatest victory is not defeating your enemy, it is changing them. Stood up, she extended her hand. It was a human gesture, a gesture of agreement, of new beginnings. Looked at her hand. Then he reached out with his scaled claw and took it. "I will help you," said. 6 months later, the first class of hybrid combat training graduated. 30 cadets from 12 species. They had learned plasma weapons and steel blades, energy shields and ancient footwork. They had learned from many teachers. But the main teacher was Park, human, 25 years old, the one who had shown the galaxy what steel could really do. She stood before the graduating class. At her hip hung her sword, the same sword her grandmother had given her. It was repaired now. The crystal coating was gone, but the steel was strong. It would always be strong. "Today you graduate," told the cadets. "But your learning never ends. Remember what this academy has taught you. Technology is powerful, but technology can fail. Weapons can break, ships can crash. What cannot break is what you carry inside, your patience, your wisdom, your will to survive." She put her hand on her sword. "I came here with nothing but this blade and the lessons of my ancestors." People laughed. They said steel cannot stop plasma. They were right, but they were also wrong. Steel taught me to be patient, to observe, to adapt. Steel taught me that sometimes the old ways and the new ways can work together. She looked at the cadets, human, all of them together. "You are the new generation. You carry the future, make it better than the past." The cadets applauded. In the front row stood tall and proud. Lyra glowed brighter than any in the room. Even was there, clapping with all 4 hands. And at the back of the hall, instructor watched. He did not applaud, but he nodded slowly, a small gesture, but enough. The human had taught him something he would never forget. And that lesson would echo through the galaxy for generations to come.